Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is late in the evening on May 23rd, 2018. This is Christopher Aaron. Thank you for tuning into this broadcast. Let's do something that we haven't done for a little while, which is to focus on the silver market. We've been focusing on gold because it's been a very important time as we observe the attempts to overcome the 2016 peak in gold. But there's an equally important set of circumstances here happening for silver. So let us take a look. Now, we do focus on the charts here because this is what I would call in the investment world, this is a no fantasy zone. And there are plenty of people out there selling you stories that they repeat year after year after year after year, no matter what actually happens to what? The only thing that really matters, which is the price. And we see here gold not falling as quickly as I thought it would, truth be told, but it has still not overcome the level that I'm watching, the 1307 to 1310 level, which would tell me that this breakdown that we saw a week and a half ago has been aborted. So it still looks like a counter trend rally over the short run. So you can see I'm a person, for example, I accumulate gold and I accumulate silver, and I advise individuals on how to do that. But I have no problem saying that I think the price is going to go lower for a period of time, which until I see a move in gold again back toward that level, the 1310 level, I will be considering this a counter trend rally in gold. Now, silver has been holding up relatively better than gold here for the last week or two, which has been encouraging to see. Today being an exception, it finished lower on the day relative to gold. But we are going to focus on silver here. So let's bring up the chart. And this is the primary silver chart that we focus on week in and week out in the premium research service. This chart is updated every week. And once a month, by the way, this is coming up this weekend in the premium service. We do a video just like this, which is much more in-depth and covers not only silver, but also gold, also the mining sector, the gold to silver ratio, the U.S. bond market, the U.S. dollar. Basically, it's everything that impacts a precious metals investor. Personally, I could not invest without this information. So I just publish it for the benefit of those who find the same thing to be true. So we are looking at that primary silver chart. When I say primary, let's bring up the key here for a moment. I'm talking about from the late 2015 lows. So this was the bottom of the bear market that began in 2011. As far as we know to this point, here was the major surge in 2016. The initial downtrend that we had from that, the parallel channel, you can see that here in the light turquoise lines. If you follow my mouse right here, the initial downtrend, and notice once the initial downtrend was broken right here in February 2017, right here broken, you had a series of retests on the silver market, but not coming back into the channel for any sustainable price action. So this is the benefit to charting these channels. And we have a similar channel that's shaping up right now. Now the primary downtrend channel, you can see this with the blue line, blue, royal blue, being primary trend lines. So there's a secondary downward trend that is developed once this initial trend broke. So notice when a trend breaks, it doesn't mean that the asset in question, we're talking about silver, does not mean that the thing has to skyrocket. It simply means that that trend is over. And you can see this held on 1, 2, 3 retest occasions. It is important that a trend breaks. It gives you a fair assessment at the potential for a bottom, at least a near-term bottom, and potentially even a major bottom. So this is what we're looking at. And now notice the 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at how accurately these 4 points line up here from the peak. Notice it's the peak after the initial channel broke. So when there's a channel that breaks, the next peak begins the next trend. And I just see so many people drawing trend lines from any point. Some people starting trend lines here or connecting this one and this one. It just doesn't work that way. At least to try to get an accurate sense of what's actually happening in the market. If you just draw your trend lines in any sort of way, you get a real faulty reading on the market. So I don't have everything perfect, but I have a lot of things that I've developed this system over the last decade and a half that give us a much more accurate sense of reliable expectations than both the fantasy and the inaccurate technical analysis. So we can see this most recent hit here on the trend line. Look how accurately it hit that trend line and just came back down. I mean, 4 times, right? 4 times. And whether or not these are manipulators or legitimate sellers or hedgers or mining companies who are selling on this trend line, that's a discussion for another day. We could discuss that until we are blue in the faces as this downtrend is blue, but it really gets us nowhere at the end of the day. What gets us somewhere is to observe when this trend breaks. We have a very important support level here. We can observe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and look at all the mini hits in here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's call it 11 hits on this initial support level between 1570 and 1610, and just grinding presently in this zone. Now, if you watch the last video, you will know what I'm talking about already. You will see the pattern. We were talking about these triangle patterns. We were talking about it with gold. But look at what is formed here in the silver market. And what is this? This is a descending right triangle. It has a very clear, we just said, anywhere from 6 to 11 hits on this support level, depending on how we want to define the series of hits here, and very clear downward sloping resistance. Now, unfortunately, this is a bearish pattern for silver, and I'm going to show you this is so important. The resolution of this pattern, if you are a stacker or if you are heavily invested in the silver market and the mining space, it is so important how this descending triangle resolves for silver over the next several months. And I've made the point in the past that these patterns, although you can see this pattern as shown on the chart would extend into 2019, these triangles typically resolve somewhere around 2/3 or 3/4 of the way through the pattern. So this is coming up here in the next several months. Now this is a bearish pattern, and this pattern would give a target somewhere down in the low 13s if this were to break downward, as the bias should be expected. If you want to be logical and if you want to pay attention to reason, then you should consider and be aware that this is a bearish pattern in silver. Yet it's not just the fact that silver might fall back down to the 13s that's so important. It's where it places this market in the big picture. Okay? Now, we'll look at that in just a second. Now, why do I have here these red arrows for your attention, the red color, attention? And the question here, we're proposing a question, which is, how does silver respond when gold breaks 2016 highs? So these markets are really bifurcated right now, and we're seeing these attempts by silver over the last couple of weeks to show some leadership. We're watching that very closely in the premium service on the gold to silver ratio updates that are basically going out weekly right now because it's such an important time to pay attention to that signal. But so we're asking this question, how does silver respond when gold breaks 2016 highs? Because gold is the leadership. Gold is the big kahuna. Gold is the market that we must focus on primarily. The direction that gold goes, silver will eventually go to some extent. And the question is, what sort of a bounce do we get here from silver when gold breaks those 2016 highs? It's still in an ascending triangle pattern for gold as opposed to silver, which is this descending triangle. So a very clear difference to see here in these two markets. And we can say in technical analysis, we can say some things for certain. There is a bullish pattern in gold and there's a bearish pattern in silver. And these things may not make sense to us, but we shouldn't just discount them just because they don't make sense, because this is what the market is saying. So we have this question, we're looking for that, and we will have the answer to this very, very soon. The level to watch for right now is 1730, which is declining every week. So 1730 would get down to 1720 or so by next week. If we see a break above that 1730 to 1720 region here in the next couple of weeks, or a level declining in the future, then this pattern aborts, which will be a very good thing for precious metals investors. But we have to actually see that. We don't want to hypothecate too much. Do you see what I'm saying? So let me show you how critical this pattern is when we zoom out. And we were just looking at this little area. Okay, now we're looking at silver 2002 to the present. I want to move that out of the way. So look at how critical this flat support level is with declining resistance, because as I said, if this pattern breaks lower and gives us a target of 13, you know what is going to happen? This incredibly clear long-term rising trend line is going to break to the downside. And if you are anyone who expects to make a profit in the silver market within the next 3 to 5 years, this should be your utmost concern, that this trend holds. Now, I will reiterate, if this trend breaks, it does not mean that silver is going to crash down to $5 an ounce. But what it does mean, what it will mean, is that silver will not be rising anytime soon into the 20s or 30s or 50s or any of these crazy numbers above 100 that people like to make videos on almost on a weekly basis. So if this trend line, you could see how clear it is that buyers have shown up from 2003, all these little hits here coming into the vicinity of the trend line by about 50 cents. 2004, 2005, the crash of 2008, silver fell 60% in 4 months, held right here. Look at the bottom in 2015. Look at the flash crash low from last summer. You're trying to tell me there's no pattern here that is important to you as a silver investor? Just look at this, guys. So it's do or die time for silver. Silver has to show itself here. Look, it doesn't have to be this week or next week, but we're looking at that pattern. In the next 2 to 3 months, it's do or die time for silver. And we will keep calm, but remember that it is do or die time for silver, because we do not want to see this lower trend line break. Now, the only scenario that I could see this being positive for you, and mind you, if this trend line breaks, I will be changing my strategy significantly with silver. I will likely sell most of my mining positions, and I will look to play the swings in this market, especially on the short side, over the course of the next 3, 5, it could even be longer if this trend line breaks. So all I'm saying is if this happens, I'm not predicting that yet, but I have shown you in the last slide the critical support between 1570 and 1610. If that thing comes down and breaks, this market is not moving higher anytime soon. It's just not. And you can believe whatever fantasy you want to believe. And once again, sometimes it's fun to do that. But you got to say at the end of the day, if you've been in this market for enough years, isn't it getting a little bit tiring listening to these fantasy stories over and over and over again when we must actually pay attention to what the market is doing? That is the point of this channel, to give you a sampling of that for free. And we publish much more in depth. Like I said, the video coming out this weekend for premium subscribers will cover the gold market in this way, the mining sector. We also cover the individual miners that we are buying and selling here, as well as all the research to back that up. So if you find this type of clear technical analysis useful in your decision making, I would encourage you to make an investment. Think about how much you may be spending on the metals themselves. Think about making an investment into knowledge and education that will keep you on the right side of the major trends. That is the point here. I also work with individuals on a one-on-one basis. Know that you can reach me by the consultations tab on the website if you would like an independent perspective on your situation. I have nothing to sell you except for the research that I do, the analysis that I do. So I'm at a luxury here because I can tell you things that other precious metals sites cannot or do not want to tell you. Now, once again, I reiterate, I maintain a long-term bullish stance on the metals, and I understand the problems with fiat currency, the problems with the Federal Reserve, the theft from the industrial military complex, the theft through inflation. I understand it all, and it's horrible. But if the market is not going to move with us, with these fundamentals that we know, let us please pay attention to the actual market itself so that we don't get blindsided by an oncoming train that has other thoughts as to what we may expect. There will be no video this time next week. I will be traveling a little bit, and so there'll be no video. The next free video will be this time in 2 weeks. Thank you very much. I hope you find something useful in this video, and I will see you in 2 weeks here on the free channel. Premium subscribers, we have the long video coming up this weekend, covering everything related to the precious metals.